last time.
Hey everyone, DCB here again. So about a year and a half ago, a friend of mine sent me these two extremely rare Setmakers Filet of fish statuettes to restore. Back then I made a short unboxing video about them, but since that day I had moved my workshop 2 times and I just kept putting it off, and I was just extremely busy with all sorts of other stuff. And I don't like putting stuff off, but I often get sidetracked or pulled away to work on other things. But the other day, he asked me about it, and out of guilt, I just forced myself to work on them. They actually didn't take too long, and it was kind of fun to do. And I'm pretty pleased with the results. But before I show you the final, I want to show you the process that it took me to get them all pretty and stuff. As you can see, these are just a total mess. The fins are all busted off, and the paint on one of them is just completely bubbled and falling off. It's in chunks. It's just cleanly lifting off the resin underneath. And the other one, the paint's stuck on really good, but this one, it just comes off in big chunks. Plus there's this added bonus of a petrified hornet's nest in its mouth. Like I said, the other one, the paint sticks on really well. I can't get it off if I wanted to. And I don't know what the difference is between the two, different temperature conditions they were in or something, but who's to say? I got to get as much of this paint off before I can reassemble them and repaint them. Most of the paint just flakes right off, but there's some areas where it's just completely stuck on. And I tried picking it out with various tools and stuff, but it just does not want to come off, like the tail here. So I tried heating it with a heat gun, and that seemed to soften the paint a little bit, but it also started to soften the resin underneath, and I didn't want to continue with that because I didn't want to warp the resin too much. I then tried some citrus strip paint remover. I've had luck with this in the past, but I guess they changed the formula a little bit over the years. But anyway, I tried this and I let it sit overnight, and it did take the various paint layers off, but when it got down to that final white layer, it just would not budge. I'm not sure if this final layer is like a gel coat or some sort of resin or what it is, but the citrus dip did absolutely nothing to it. Then I tried this other paint remover stuff because it says on the can that it removes epoxy, so I thought that might do the trick. It says to leave it on for 15 minutes, and I tried that and it didn't do anything. So then I just slopped a bunch of it on and left that overnight. And when I came back the next morning, it didn't budge anything. So I'm just going to have to chip off as much as possible as I can. And then on the edge where the paint stops, I'll have to feather that out with some sandpaper. And then I'll apply some glazing putty to kind of like feather that and smooth that out. After I get all that done, then I'm going to glue these fins back on. And for that, I'm going to use a 2-part epoxy that I'll just sort of glob into there. And then I'll add a bead of super glue around the edge so that the super glue will kind of instantly hold the fin on while the epoxy cures. The epoxy is a stronger hold, but the super glue holds it temporarily. Almost all the pieces were actually here, with just some minor chunks that I'll have to fill in later. These originally hung at like an angle on the walls of McDonald's with like a painted backdrop behind them, and so they sanded the bottom of them at this angle so that they could bolt them to the wall and they'd have this kind of tilt to them. But the client wanted these to be fully three-dimensional because he wants to put them on a base. So I had to fill in that sanded area. So to do that, I use Bondo. I just add a little bit at a time, and then once that's set up, I add a little more, and just kind of get the whole area filled in. And then I use a metal rasp to kind of get the majority of the larger chunks flattened out. And then once that's kind of basically shaped, then I'll go in with the orbital sander to get it more smooth. Once all the Bondo's cured, then I'll go in with some more glazing putty to fill in the smaller holes and imperfections and get everything really nice and smooth again. And then once all that's filled in, I'm going to paint the whole thing with filler primer. And that not only fills in all the little imperfections, but with its flat gray color, it helps to really accentuate the areas that need special attention. Sometimes when stuff is in multiple colors and different sheens, you don't really notice the imperfections. So with the flat gray, it gives it more of a visual cue as to what work needs to be done to it still. I'll just hit any of the areas that need help with some more glazing putty, and then another layer of filler primer and glazing putty and filler primer over and over again until it's perfect. Once that final layer of primer is fully cured, then I'm gonna paint the bun with my favorite automotive yellow paint that I use for all my bun-based characters that I do, which is Omni in Hyundai Sunny Yellow, and I'll spray that on with my HVLP gun, which stands for high volume, low pressure. And then once that yellow layer dries, I'm going to go in with the Omni Volcanic Orange and airbrush that around the edge of the bun to give it that toasted look. These are the exact same paints I use for the miniatures, and the same technique. It's just a little bigger. For the eyeballs and the fillet, I'm just using my craft paints here. Again, exactly the same as my miniatures. And then I'm going to paint the fins with some Krylon in Seaside Blue. This color is pretty dang close to the original, so I like using it. I'm just going to spray some in a cup here and then brush it on. It's going to take about 2 or 3 layers to get a nice good coat. The final thing that needs to be painted is this indented area in the back of the tail. I'm just going to use Krylon in Brilliant Blue, which is the blue that I always use for my Officer Big Macs. After all the paint is cured, then it's on to my dreaded and favorite step of clear coating. I'm again using my Automotive Production Clear and a spray gun. I carefully spray it while slowly building up layer after layer until it's a nice, thick, glossy shine. The trick is to not do so much that it starts to drip, but enough that it gives it a good coat and then gives it that gloss. And here's the final painted piece. I'm actually quite pleased with it. The client has requested a custom base for these that I'm going to start planning, and I'll probably do a video about that once I start actually making them. I'm going to attempt to make it look like they're jumping out of a little puddle of water. So maybe some sort of clear acrylic or resin or something. That should be pretty neat looking. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I did drill a hole in the bottom of these at an angle that I want them to be jumping out at. So I'll figure it out. I hope I can get that done in the next week or so, and I'll post the video when it's done. So anyway, this is just a quick one, but I really liked how these turned out, and I just wanted to share it with everybody. So thanks again, everyone. Bye.
Darn, that's the end.
Thanks everyone for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to this channel and follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Dustin Cropsboy. Also check out our TeePublic page for t-shirts you can buy to help support this channel, or just go to the website dcbvarietyhour.com for all the links.